Hey everyone and welcome back to Bot 369 Poker University. Today's lesson is all about pre-flop bet sizing. We'll be diving deep into how to adjust your raise size based on different factors, so you can exploit these situations and gain an edge at the tables. The pre-flop stage sets the foundation for every successful poker hand. By strategically raising, you can build the pot in your favor, take control of the hand, and potentially win it before the flop cards are even dealt. But how much should you raise? The answer depends on your position at the table and the actions of your opponents. This video dives deep into pre-flop raise sizing strategies for various situations, equipping you to exploit weaknesses, navigate different game situations, and ultimately become a more well-rounded and profitable poker player. We'll establish GTO raise sizes for various pre-flop situations assuming 100 big blind stacks. This serves as your go-to baseline strategy for unexploitable play, helping you build a foundation for strong pre-flop decision-making. Remember, GTO strategies can be complex and may not be applicable to every game situation. Always prioritize adapting your strategy based on the specific game and opponents you face. Imagine a poker table viewed from above. Players closer to the dealer button have a significant advantage. They get to see how others act before deciding to call, raise, or fold. Early position players act first with limited information. This positional awareness is crucial for pre-flop raise sizing. Early and middle position, keeping it tight. In early and middle positions, you often lack positional information. Here's where the concept of min raising comes in. By raising a small amount, typically 2.5x the big blind, you conserve chips and avoid bloating the pot out of position. This allows you to fold more easily against aggressive raises from later positions. The cutoff and button, expanding your range. As you move closer to the button, your raise size should increase. On the cutoff, consider raising at least 2.3 xbb, potentially going up to 2.5 xbb. Your wider opening range benefits from a larger raise size to discourage opponents from calling and potentially dominating your hand post-flop. The button is your strongest position. Most professionals use a 2.5 xbb raise size as a standard opening. With the positional advantage, you can also comfortably call 3 bets, making smaller raises unnecessary. Small blind. When you're in the small blind, you want to use minimal a 3 xbb raise as your opening size. Any less than that and you're just allowing your opponent to defend really wide because obviously the smaller are open, the better price they get. Plus the fact they're being in position means that they get to defend really wide, and being out of position for us versus a super wide range can be very, very tricky. So you want your opponent to pay for the privilege of being able to see a flop. Key takeaway. Raise sizes should be smaller in earlier positions compared to later positions. This applies to both live and online games. Where in live games the raise sizes be slightly bigger. 3 betting like a pro. 3 betting is when you re-raise an opponent's opening raise. The sizing here depends on the opening size you face and your position. The golden rules of using 3 xbb in position and 4 xbb out of position are a good starting point, but not set in stone. Against min raises or small opens, around 2 xbb, a 3 xbb 3 bet allows your opponent to exploit you by calling cheaply with a wide range. Consider sizing your 3 bet slightly bigger, around 6.5 xbb, to punish them for weak openings. So when we face min raises or 2.2x opens, we don't stick with the golden rule of using a 3x3 bet size. We want to go slightly bigger than 3x, not much but slightly bigger. So if someone opens to 2x, I make it 6.5. If they open to 2.2, I make it 7 big blinds, and if they open to 2.5 big blinds or more, that's when I start to use the 3x3 bet size. Squeeze play. Squeezing is a 3 betting strategy where you re-raise after someone raises and another player calls. When squeezing in position, especially on the button, don't go small. Consider a 3 bet of at least 11 xbb to put pressure on both the initial raiser and the caller. For example, under the gun opens to 2.2x and the cutoff calls, you cannot 3 bet here less than 11 big blinds. Squeezing spots are always big sizes. You're up against 2 players. There's already more money in the pot because of that call, so you must size up in this spot, and obviously we can scale up or down based on a couple of different factors like number of callers, stack sizes of our opponents, open sizes, all those different factors. If under the gun opens to 2.5x in middle position calls and then the cutoff calls, we should be going 14 big blinds here on the button as an absolute minimum. Don't be afraid to put in these large squeezes where necessary. Out of position, we want to go even bigger. Say under the gun opens to 2x and the button calls. It's a small open and there's only one caller. But we still go quite big here to 12 big blinds as an absolute minimum. It's really important that we put in these large squeezes. We don't want to give our opponents the opportunity to peel our 3-bet for a great price. We've got to factor in that the extra player makes all the difference. So when the opener raises and there's a caller, that means that our size should be much bigger because the pot is already that little bit bigger, which means that we should squeeze larger. 4-bet pots. Occasionally, another player may 4-bet, adding even more complexity to the pre-flop decision-making process. We'll discuss navigating these situations strategically, considering factors like stack sizes and opponent tendencies. A common mistake many of you might be making is using massive 4-bet sizes. This can actually hurt your game in the long run. Many players panic and use a giant 4-bet size only with strong hands like ace-king. But listen up, this is a leak. Use the same size for all your 4-bets. Why? Because you want to be unpredictable. Imagine your opponent knowing you only fire a huge bet with monsters. Another reason to ditch the mega 4-bet is post-flop playability. If you shove a massive 4-bet and your opponent calls, the pot gets huge. This means you're more likely to be all in by the flop, leaving less room for your poker skills to shine. By using a more appropriate size, you can still pressure opponents to fold weak hands while keeping the pot manageable. This allows you to make strategic bets on the flop, turn, and river, maximizing your potential winnings. There's no magic formula, but here are some guidelines. Say you open the cutoff to 2.3 big blinds, BB, and the button 3 bets to 7.5 BB. Don't go crazy with a 23 or 24 BB 4-bet. A 2021 BB size is just fine. You'll still generate folds from weak hands like ace-8 suited or ace-jack off, but keep the pot manageable for post-flop play. Even with strong hands like ace-king, you can comfortably play for stacks with a pot of 43 BB. Now in position, let's say button versus small blind. Now, imagine you open the button to 2.5 BB and the small blind 3 bets to 10 BB. Here a good 4-bet size would be 23 to 23.5 BB. Notice how the multiplier, around 2.3 to 2.5x the 3-bet, is smaller than out of position, but the actual number of big blinds is higher because the initial 3-bet is bigger. Key takeaways. Ditch the massive 4-bet sizes. Use the same size for all your 4 bets. Focus on post-flop playability by using an appropriate size. Adjust your size slightly based on your position, in position versus out position. Raising over limpers, isolating. When you're in a strong position, like the button or cutoff, and players limp before you, you can use a raising strategy called isolating to target a specific player, usually the one who limped last. A common raise size against one limper is 4 times the big blind, 4x BB. This discourages other players from calling and allows you to potentially build a bigger pot heads up. The raise size can be adjusted based on the total chips in play. With deeper stacks, you can raise smaller, maybe 3x BB, as players have more room to call. For shallower stacks, a larger raise, up to 6x BB or more, can be used to force a decision before the flop. If you know your opponent folds easily pre-flop, a smaller raise might be sufficient. If facing players who limp call a lot, high VPIP and low PFR, a larger raise size, 6x BB or more, can exploit their weakness by isolating them and potentially building a bigger pot. Multiple limpers. With multiple limpers, the pot odds become worse for you because more players are involved. To compensate, you should increase your raise size. A common strategy is to add one big blind, BB, for each additional limper after the first. For example, with 2 limpers, you might raise 5x BB, 4x BB for the first limper plus 1x BB for the second. Remember, these are general guidelines, and adjustments can be made based on specific situations and table dynamics. Observe your opponent's tendencies to make informed decisions. By understanding how to adjust your raise size when facing limps, you can exploit profitable situations and gain an edge in Texas Hold'em. As you gain experience, consider factors like table dynamics, opponent tendencies, and stack sizes to further refine your pre-flop raising strategy. By mastering the art of pre-flop raise sizing, you'll be well on your way to becoming a more profitable poker player. Poker isn't just about following a script. Pay close attention to opponent tendencies. Tight players might fold to larger raises, while loose players might call more frequently. Adjust your sizing accordingly. Consider the overall table dynamics. Is it a passive game with a lot of calling, or are players more aggressive? Adapt your strategy to exploit these dynamics. Tight players. If you know your opponent folds easily pre-flop, a smaller raise might be sufficient. Loose players. If facing players who limp call a lot, high VPIP and low PFR, a larger raise size, 6xBB or more, can exploit their weakness by isolating them and potentially building a bigger pot. There's always room for improvement, so keep analyzing your play and continuously learn. While this article provides foundational knowledge, consider exploring resources like pre-calculated charts and ranges or using solvers for more advanced GTO calculations. By following these tips, you'll be well on your way to exploiting weaknesses in your opponent's ranges, navigating different game situations, and ultimately becoming a more well-rounded and profitable poker player. Remember, there's always room to learn and adjust your strategy based on your opponents and specific situations. These are general guidelines, and adjustments can be made based on specific situations and table dynamics. Observe your opponent's tendencies to make informed decisions. Alright, that wraps up today's lesson on pre-flop bet sizing. For more in-depth poker strategies, don't forget to subscribe to Bot 369 Poker University and hit that notification bell so you don't miss out on future content. And if you have any questions, leave them down in the comments below. Good luck at the tables. Thanks for watching.